The NBA trade deadline has expired. The Hornets, well, they did something, and I think that was the ask of many fans, and it was the ask of Locked On Hornets co-host Walker Mehl, who joins us now. Walker, I wouldn't say it was at the buzzer, but Mitch Kupchak and the Hornets getting that deal done that sent Mason Plumlee out of town did open up some playing time for rookie Mark Williams and young center Nick Richards. What do you think of that deal overall? Again, it's Plumlee to the Clippers for Reggie Jackson, who's on an expiring deal, a veteran point guard, and a second-round pick.
Yeah, I think the second-round pick that came in a little bit later, it helps salvage this a little bit because Mason Plumlee was also on an expiring contract. So you could have just played him and allowed that contract to go off of the books. But I think the idea was to free up some time for Mark Williams, as you just mentioned. Still, I would have liked to have gotten a second-round pick. They got it, so that helps kind of salvage that deal for me. As far as Reggie Jackson goes, I wonder if he's a buyout candidate where another contender would then pick him up to go play for a second round, a conference finals appearance, maybe championship, who knows. But Reggie Jackson, he helps this team right now, and the Hornets did not trade Terry Rozier. And so I wonder just how that would work if they did keep Reggie Jackson. But either way, the idea was to allow your first-round pick in Mark Williams, allow him to start, get a lot of minutes playing that starting five spot, and try to just get some kind of compensation for Mason Plumlee. And so it's going to be the last time I get to wear this shirt, the left-handed jumper of one Mason. But now LA gets to enjoy all of those antics from one Mr. Plumlee.
Yeah, those lefty Jays might have sealed the deal for the Clippers, sending that second-rounder back.
Absolutely.
Real quick with the buyout, a potential buyout of Jackson, that helps the Hornets a little bit, right, financially. I mean, they're not going to owe him too much for the rest of this season. His contract was expiring like Mason's was. It was a little more expensive. How would that kind of benefit the Hornets if that happens?
Well, it's not like the buyout, I guess, look, there's a lot of weird rules behind the scenes, but as far as I understand, it really wouldn't help the Hornets all that much in regards to the difference with this contract compared to Mason's, right? Both contracts were expiring deals. So at the end of this season, Mason Plumlee's salary was not going to be on the books anymore. It's going to be the same exact thing with Reggie Jackson. You're really just kind of doing Reggie Jackson a solid. Now, I guess it opens up a roster spot if the Hornets wanted to go after a younger player that they deemed a reclamation project. So perhaps there are some minor benefits to buying him out and allowing Reggie Jackson to go, seek another team. But really, it's just saying, hey, you're a veteran. You just don't fit our plans as far as what we have in sight right now. And so, Reggie would go sign with a different team because he's still a decent player, plays some defense and can shoot the three ball really well, provide some rim pressure. But right now, it just probably doesn't make a ton of sense for him to be here with the Charlotte Hornets.
All right, the other deal the Hornets made on deadline day came a couple of hours earlier. Young forward Jalen McDaniels, he's headed to Philadelphia, part of a three-team deal, 76ers, Hornets, and the Portland Trail Blazers. The Hornets will wind up with, it sounds like, 2 second-round picks out of that deal, and they also pick up Svi Mykhailiuk, former Kansas guy from the Portland Trail Blazers. What are your thoughts on getting Jalen McDaniels to another team? I know he's a young player that Hornets fans were excited about. He was coming up on free agency as well.
Yeah, those that listen to Locked On Hornets, they can get a gauge of who my favorite players are. Jalen McDaniels was certainly one of them. So trading Jalen McDaniels for multiple second-round picks, and then Mykhailiuk, who I'm not sure is going to be with this team, maybe he is, but really it's the second-round picks that are the valuable part of this trade. I thought that they would get more, to be honest with you, and maybe I just missed the mark. I thought if you were going to trade Jalen McDaniels, then you would get a protected first-round pick or some kind of player that was a young reclamation project that you felt like you could get maybe 30% of the value, but with some potential there, and then 2 second-round picks. So I thought you would get more from Jalen McDaniels, and I'm a little underwhelmed by the return here from Philadelphia, from the other teams mentioned in this trade. And so to me, even with the rebuilding franchise, like Charlotte is kind of headed in that direction here, I thought Jalen McDaniels was the type of player that would make a lot of sense. I don't think he's going to cost a lot of money on this next contract. And I thought you would bring him in as a 3-and-D guy. He shot a lot better the previous 2 seasons. And I think that was because he was playing in a role better suited for him. But because of all the injuries, because of an uptick in minutes played, to be honest with you, asking him to do a few more different things, then the numbers efficiency wise, they started to go down a little bit. I thought Jalen was a valued player, in my opinion, just turned 25 years old, I think just last week. So I valued him. You get a couple second-round picks. Maybe you package that up in the NBA draft. Maybe you use that as a sweetener in another trade to bring something back of higher value. We'll see. But as of right now, I'm a little underwhelmed.
Okay, I know Hornets fans, a lot of them had dreams of grandeur heading into this trade deadline and trying to see if Charlotte could ship off the contracts of Terry Rozier and
Right.
Gordon Hayward. How difficult, though, was that going to be for Mitch Kupchak to pull off right now?
Yeah, I think it would have been harder with, honestly, both of them. Let's start with Terry Rozier, who is on the books for 4 more years. His contract just kicked in this past season, despite signing the extension the year prior, right? So he was on his previous deal until this season, the first time that it was able to hit. And it was going to be hard to match some of the salaries, especially with Phoenix, a team rumoredly interested in Terry Rozier after they traded for Kevin Durant. They were kind of done, in my opinion. And then the Lakers, they were always rumoredly interested in Terry Rozier, but they had very limited assets to trade for Terry. So once you get rid of a first-round pick and D'Angelo Russell is the guy that you brought back in return from Minnesota, then Terry Rozier I don't think was really in the cards anymore. So as the trade deadline went on, it seemed like the chances were dwindling down further and further for the chance that Terry Rozier would be traded. So now he still remains a Charlotte Hornet. Would keep an eye out on him getting traded this offseason. And Gordon Hayward, real quickly, I always thought that it was going to be hard to trade Gordon Hayward this entire time. You never heard anybody, right? Like there were a lot of other players with the Hornets where there were reports about teams' interest in those players. Never really with Gordon Hayward this time. I think the Hornets did the right thing and pretty much the only option they had, retaining Gordon. He's going to be an expiring contract next year. That'll be a commodity for other teams. And even if it is at $30 million, you think about it, you sign him as a $30 million player, you trade for him. That means you have $30 million coming off of the books the following offseason. So Gordon might even be a commodity this offseason, especially if you can salvage some of that playing ability that he has, which he's still a helpful player when on the court.
Are you surprised Kelly Oubre Jr. is still here? I know he's injured, but he seems like he's the timeline. He'd be coming back off of that for the backstretch of somebody's season. Thought he could help somebody. Are you surprised he didn't get traded?
I'm not, and it is because of the injury. I think with Kelly, as soon as he suffered ligament damage in his shooting hand, and that's how he makes his money in this league, by being able to shoot and get to the rack and finish well at the rim. Kelly Oubre, as soon as that happened, it was always going to be tough, because you think about Kelly, he's also on an expiring contract, which means if you did trade for him, if you gave up second round picks, which were all the rage today, by the way. So if you traded second round picks for Kelly Oubre, and he wasn't even ready as soon as you traded for him, let's say you have to wait a couple more weeks, then you would have to try to integrate him into the system. There's a month and a half left, maybe a couple months left of the regular season. And then you're talking about having him for a playoff run, and then he'd be maybe moving on somewhere else, right? And so were you willing to get rid of real assets for a guy that is injured and had ligament damage in his shooting hand that he had to have surgery on and have a procedure? So I'm not surprised. It's unfortunate for Kelly. It's unfortunate for the Charlotte Hornets, who might have wanted to trade him. But at the end of the day, I think it was always going to be really hard to move him.
15-41, Walker. This team before the trade deadline was already moving down the wrong track. Does this accelerate it at all when you lose a bench player like Jalen McDaniels and you lose your starting center, Mason Plumlee, although you do like what you've seen from Mark Williams, the rookie?
Jalen was the guy that I thought could be here long term, and it makes sense. Mason Plumlee, it always made sense to trade him if you were going to get a second round pick, multiple second round picks in return. And so with Mason, it makes a lot of sense to free up Mark Williams, somebody who's been playing very well when he's entered the rotation, really the last, 30% of this season that's already transpired, maybe 40%. He's been very good. And it's a bright spot for this team, where a lot of fans have kind of gone with the bad experiences and just been holding out hope. Well, Mark Williams was that hope for this team, and now he's going to get a lot more playing time. That's great. Yeah, the rebuild, You're going to hold on to LaMelo. You're obviously not trading him. Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, it'll be interesting to see how the Hornets operate this offseason with those contracts on the books. PJ Washington, now you freed up money not signing Jalen by trading him. Maybe you apply that money to PJ Washington and sign him long term. So it's funny, here we are talking about a potential rebuild when in reality, you might see some familiar faces. It's just all about what happens with this number 1 pick, this first overall selection. The Hornets are going to be in the running for generational talent, Victor Wembanyama. And if they get him, Nick, I mean, it's going to be crazy here in the Queen City.
All right, gunning for that at least a bottom 3 record at the end of the season.
Right.
But right outside of it, we'll see if today gets them further to that point. Walker Mehl from Locked On Hornets. You can hear him every day there. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, Nick. Thanks again.